second. Oh, well, sorry. Okay. Hopefully they know to leave the other one and come back. Anybody who actually, sometimes even though it's done, I think you can still chat. Maybe one of you guys go over and tell the YouTubers in the old chat to move to the new one. So, have I sold my soul? No, because I'm not a Trumper. I'm actually American, pro-American, love America, love our troops, love our allies, hate our enemies. I have not sold my soul. I do not support Donald Trump. Have you sold your soul? I'm going to guess the answer might just be yes. Finally, Wisconsin. Harris is up 3 points in Wisconsin over Trump. Still could be a tie, by the way. And Harris is up 3.4 points over where Biden was in the state. So Kamala Harris versus Joe Biden in all the key states is doing better than Biden anywhere between 3.4 percentage points and 5.2 percentage points better than Biden. Again, 3.4 to 5.2 percentage points better than Biden in all the key 7 states. That's huge. In an election that we think is going to be very close, absolutely freaking cute. A t-shirt map of the states. I do. Of the U.S. states. I didn't think of that. You're right, Marion. I do need that. I didn't think of that. That's actually kind of funny. Mary made a good point. Maybe I have to look on Amazon and see if I can find a nice t-shirt of the American states. You're right, because we're talking about it, and like the Americans, I think Americans, I'm going to trust you Americans, generally know where the states are, but the foreigners don't. So sometimes when we're talking about these, although I got to admit, it's a little scary for me to point the difference between Nevada and Arizona, I can do. Utah and Wyoming and Colorado start to confuse me a little bit. Utah, I think I can do because it's next to California. No, Nevada might be. See, this is the problem. Nevada might be next to California. For those of us from the rest of the country, Nevada, Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, those are the 4 that I go, ugh. Midwest, I'm pretty good. The South gets a little fishy when you're dealing with Alabama, Mississippi. You know, some of that gets a little sketchy. Why Oklahoma's easy because it's that panhandle thing, right? The big squares are very hard. You can help with Colorado, exactly, Marion. I know Oklahoma because it's easy because it's square with it's the Big Dipper, right? Oklahoma's the easy one because I know what it looks like. Anyway, but I agree with you. It'd be fun to get a t-shirt. I'll have to, somebody, maybe mods, remind me later. Ash, you can text me or something. I think it'd be a neat idea to find a t-shirt of the American states. Although I don't want to wear the same t-shirt every night, but maybe I can make a t-shirt board map. Thank you, Vampy in Canada, for the heart puff. Sweet of you. All right, let's keep going, guys. The threats continue in Springfield, Ohio. You might remember they're eating the dogs. Wait, one moment. Oops. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. Okay. Donald Trump from the debate had warned us, and he lied out of his ass, frankly, but Trump claimed during the debate with Kamala Harris that dark people, those black people, right? That black people in Ohio, Haitians in particular, were stealing the cats and dogs of their neighbors and eating them because Trump says that's what Haitians do. Haitian Americans eat animals. They eat your pets and they steal your pets. It was one of the most racist things he's ever said. But he's been a racist for a long time. It was one of the biggest lies he's ever said. J.D. Vance, his vice president, keeps pushing it as well. J.D. Vance pretty much admitted he was lying about it. The town saw death threats and bomb threats. They had to close the schools because Trump supporters, and you can pretty much guess it was Trump supporters, were making bomb threats against the town because the town was full of black people, right? Bad, evil black people. They were making bomb threats against the town. The schools had to close. Well, the town hall had to close. Well, it's still continuing. A local organization in Clark County, Ohio, which includes the city of Springfield, announced Wednesday it is canceling an event it had planned to host next week, saying in a statement it was prioritizing the safety and well-being of all involved. Springfield has been bombarded with bomb threats that forced the evacuation of public schools and City Hall after J.D. Vance, the Republican vice presidential nominee, and former President Donald Trump amplified baseless claims about immigrants there eating pets and wild animals. Thank you, Boomer. It's pretty disgusting. I mean, and I've always said before, this is what I've told you guys. Donald Trump, and J.D. Vance now as well, Donald Trump is a pathological liar. People like to say all politicians lie. All politicians, by the way, don't lie. That's bullshit. I lived in Washington for 40 years. All politicians don't lie. Some politicians lie more than others. Yes. Right? Donald Trump is a pathological liar. I have never in my life seen anybody lie as much as Donald Trump in the private sector or in the public sector. Okay? Pathological liar. He cannot say anything that isn't a lie, practically speaking. Okay? He is unique that way. It is, and people always say everybody lies. Really? So you're telling me, for example, you've never met anybody who's basically a liar, right? Right? I mean, I guess the Trump people always said everyone lies. Really? So you telling a white lie, and in English, a white lie is a nice lie. Like, how does this dress look on me? Oh, I think it's really pretty. That could be a white lie. In other words, you don't think the dress looks great, but you know the woman likes it, so you say, "Oh, it looks great." Right? That's a white lie. They're nice lies. They're innocent lies, right? Done for nice reasons. Pathological liar is somebody who lies nonstop. And the Trump people want you to believe that everyone lies like Donald Trump. Now, maybe Trump supporters lie like Donald Trump. It's possible. I mean, maybe that's why they think what Trump does is normal, because if you yourself was somebody who lied almost every word coming out of your mouth, you might think that's normal. You might say, well, everybody's like me, right? But those of us who don't lie, thank you, Randy, those of us who, thank you, Denise, who try to get things right, who try to very much minimize things we say that are wrong. I try to never really lie. Again, other than white lies, I'd be hard pressed to find anything I've ever told you guys that I thought wasn't true. It would bother me. It would just bother me. I wouldn't do it, right? I just wouldn't do it. Now, I may share stories with you that I'm not sure if they're true. Thank you, Carrot Person, like J.D. Vance liking couches and sofas, right? Liking his sectionals. I'm kind of happy to discuss it because I think it's funny. But even the J.D. Vance story, what did I tell you guys? I told you I suspect the story isn't true. The story is that J.D. Vance couches when he was single. I don't even want to go to the details. Kind of gross. But I told you guys I thought the story really wasn't true, because that's the way I approach things. Donald Trump is a pathological liar, and I will always remind you that Donald Trump hates the troops. Donald Trump hates America. Donald Trump loves our enemies. He loves the Russians. He loves the North Koreans. He hates our allies. He doesn't like our country. He doesn't like our democracy. He doesn't like our Constitution. He doesn't like our freedom, right? I will always tell you that. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie when I'm talking about Donald Trump or J.D. Vance, because the good guys don't do that. The problem is the Republicans do that. The MAGA Republicans lie left and right. And they've been doing it about this poor town in Springfield, Ohio. Thank you, Randy, Fred, and Hazel. They have been putting the lives of children in danger at the schools that are now getting bomb threats from Donald Trump, because of Donald Trump, I should say. They have put the lives of the public servants in that town in danger, bomb threats against the city council, all because Donald Trump and J.D. Vance decided they were going to tell a racist lie about Black people in America liking to eat cats and dogs and stealing them from their neighbors. I mean, guys, and the thing that kind of blows my mind is it's such an outrageous lie. It's such a racist lie, but this is what Donald Trump does. Thank you, Eileen. He has expanded the window on obscenity. But obscenity, I mean outrageousness, right? Things that even a Republican who might lie wouldn't say something as horrific as Black people like to kill pets and eat your neighbor's dogs and cats. No person, even racist Republicans, would never say that. they would be like, okay, that's too racist even for them, right? Donald Trump, happy to say it, happy to stick with it, happy to keep going with it because they're brainwashed. Exactly. As Morgan just said, they're totally brainwashed. It's a cult. Thank you, Odornas, for the gift. It's just very sad. It's sad. The Associated Press, the election issues people are searching for online, according to the Associated Press. The elections issues people are searching for online. Number one issue, crime in America. American election issues, crime. Number two issue, Social Security. Social Security is the federal program that provides retirement benefits to seniors after they retire. 3, healthcare. 4, unemployment. 5, the economy. 6, immigration. This kind of surprises me a bit. Typically, we are told that the top 2 issues in the election are the economy and crime recently. And then we're told immigration is, no, I'm sorry, the economy and immigration are the first 2 issues we're told. In fact, economy and immigration are at the bottom of this list as far as what issues people are searching for, which I thought was interesting. Crime is number 1, which is interesting as well. New York Times. Oh, this is funny from the New York Times. J.D. Vance is complaining following the assassination. Well, following the potential assassination preparation, because it wasn't an attempt, as we said. The guy didn't try to shoot Trump, but we believe the guy was preparing to shoot Trump. So I want to get the words correct because I'm a lawyer. It was not an assassination attempt. It was a potential assassination conspiracy. Maybe that's a better way. In law, we probably would call it a conspiracy because it wasn't an attempt, but it was a conspiracy to commit an assassination, we believe. J.D. Vance has been saying the reason it happened is because Democrats are mean to Donald Trump and they tell people he's a fascist and they tell people he doesn't like democracy and they tell people he sucks up to the Russians and he hates our troops by calling our soldiers suckers and losers for being killed in action and prisoners of war. The problem is all of that's true. So it's, as I've said before, J.D. Vance would love for us not to talk about the fact that Donald Trump is a fascist. He would love for us to talk about the fact that, or not to talk about the fact that Donald Trump hates America. He hates our freedoms. He hates our democracy. He hates our Constitution. He loves violence. Donald Trump tried to violently overthrow our government in 2016 in order to stop the peaceful transfer of power. He tried to violently steal the election. Okay. He is found guilty of 34 felonies. That Donald Trump was accused of sexual harassment and rape by something like 22 women, that he was found liable in court for sexually assaulting a woman. They would love us to not say those truths about Donald Trump. And what J.D. Vance has been doing lately, the last week, is claiming Donald Trump almost got shot again because Democrats told the truth about Donald Trump being a horrible human being. Here's the problem. Either Donald Trump got shot or almost got shot at again because Democrats revealed the truth about Donald Trump being a horrible human being, or Donald Trump got almost shot at because Donald Trump is a horrible human being. Obviously, it's the latter. Obviously, you don't shoot anybody. Obviously, violence is never acceptable, right? You don't. There's lots of reasons why, moral reasons, but also practical reasons. We don't want a country where people start killing presidential candidates and then somebody kills the Republican one and somebody kills the Democratic one. You don't want a country like that. But obviously, if somebody went after Donald Trump because of his crimes, the problem isn't talking about Donald Trump's crimes. The problem is that Donald Trump committed the crimes, right? Now, again, bad person, bad man was trying to shoot him. Bad man goes to jail for life as far as I'm concerned. But don't blame the truth tellers for informing America about how fascist and un-American and anti-American and how much Donald Trump hates our troops and loves our enemies. Don't criticize people who tell the truth about that. Maybe you should spend more time, if you're a Republican, criticizing the fact that your party leader, your political leader, your presidential candidate is a convicted felon who sexually assaulted a number of women, found liable in court for it, called our troops suckers and losers for being killed in action and prisoners of war, loves our enemies, hates America. and finally tried to violently overthrow the government. These are not debatable points. In any case, here's the New York Times article. J.D. Vance complains about Democrats using the term fascist to describe Donald Trump. Trump uses it often, which I freaking love. Donald Trump, J.D. Vance keeps talking and going, stop calling Donald Trump a fascist. Calling Democrats fascists is one of Donald Trump's favorite phrases that he uses all the time. But again, these guys are pathological liars on the MAGA side. You should not expect them to be consistent. They want to keep their people. And by the way, you'll never know this. You'll never know this because Trump media, Fox News, which works for Donald Trump, is never going to tell you that fact, that J.D. Vance is literally criticizing language from Democrats that Donald Trump uses. Please. Thank you, Running, for that. Thank you, May. Anyway, it makes me laugh. So this is really, there is a lot of election news today. Listen to this. Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was that really nasty press secretary Donald Trump had with the accent who worked, from the White House. Thank you, Marsha. She's the one who, thank you, Michelle. In some restaurant, I think what happened? Something happened where they didn't want to serve her dessert. I think the waiters found out who she was. And again, Donald Trump's a fascist and hates the troops and everything. And the waiters kind of said, you know what? We want you to leave our restaurant. She didn't get dessert. And she freaked out because she didn't get dessert. Thank you, Marsha, Michelle, Randol. She freaked out because of it. And it was like and Fox News, oh my God, this Republican was in a restaurant and she couldn't get dessert because people were upset that she's working for a fascist and a guy who hates America. It's like, okay, I'm sorry, but as they say, this, the world's smallest violin, you know what I mean? Oh, thank you. Thank you for that, Randy Fred. It was just obnoxious. I mean, like, big deal. She didn't get dessert. Well, let me tell you, Sarah Huckabee didn't deserve her dessert. Listen to what she said today. Sarah Huckabee Sanders jabs at Kamala Harris for not having biological children. Thank you, Marsha. Listen to this. My kids keep me humble, Sarah Huckabee Sanders said. Yeah, Miss Humble, the least humble person on the planet, this woman, right? She's obnoxious. Thank you, Andy. My kids keep me humble, Miss Sanders said at an event with former President Donald Trump. Unfortunately, Kamala Harris doesn't have anything to keep her humble. They're attacking Kamala Harris for never giving birth to children. She has a number of children. Her husband had children in a previous marriage. She has basically adopted them as her children. They are her children. Even the biological mom says, Kamala Harris has been an amazing mother to my children. Guys, they attacked her for not having babies. Now, here's what's interesting. The Trump campaign has been attacking women for the last month for not having babies. J.D. Vance attacked women who haven't had babies. Remember, he said they were childless cat ladies, I believe he called them. They were pathetic, that they were basically, women who don't have children are pathetic women, that they get old and they're angry and they live in a house full of cats, he said, okay? He's done a lot of things, by the way. He also said that women should remain in violent relationships. He actually used the word violent relationships. Women should remain in violent relationships. He doesn't believe women who say they left a relationship where they were getting beaten by a man. He doesn't believe women who say, it was better for me, the woman, to leave a relationship where I was getting physically beaten. He said, I forget the exact word. I'm trying to remember. Sorry, guys, my nose is itching. The word was, he used a word that said, I find that questionable. In other words, he doesn't believe the women that it was better for them to leave. First he said, I don't believe them, that it was better for them. Then he accused them, as Dawn just said, that they simply left this, again, a relationship in which the women were being physically beaten. Donald Trump's vice president said that the reason they're leaving is because they simply find it inconvenient. Inconvenient that they're getting punched in the face by the man they married, that it's an inconvenience and they're leaving because they can't, because they're too weak, basically. I mean, so you got to put this in context, okay? Republicans are trying to ban abortion. They're trying to ban all abortion. J.D. Vance wants to ban all abortion, okay? They're trying to ban in vitro fertilization. The Republicans yesterday killed legislation that the Democrats offered, which would have protected the right to in vitro fertilization across America. Republicans killed it yesterday. Put it in that context that they're attacking Kamala Harris for not having babies. I mean, this is literally out of Gilead, right? This is literally out of, what's the name of the TV series? The Wives. What's it called? I'm forgetting the name of the tale. What's the name of something tale? What's it called? The name of the movie, the TV series? Handmaid's Tale. This is literally out of the Handmaid's Tale. They want to force women to have babies. I need to do, I'm going to have to do a TikTok on this after the show because it's kind of a really good point. But you pull it all together, right? Ban all abortions. Criticize women who don't have babies. Keep criticizing women who don't have babies. Ban in vitro now, banning in vitro fertilization seems kind of the opposite because you'd think they'd want babies, but who knows with them. But they want to force women to have babies. And they think, and of course, sort of the sexism of it. You're not a real woman. You're not a real human being. You're not a worthy human being until you pop out those kids. Otherwise, you're actually almost subhuman is what they're saying, right? Kamala Harris shouldn't be respected because she hasn't had children. I mean, they do want to ban, actually, Ocean raises a good point too. They want to ban contraception as well. Yeah. They want to ban contraception as well. It's pretty screwed up stuff. I mean, it's really screwed up stuff. All right, let's move on. Let's move on to Ukraine. There's an okay amount of Ukraine. Not a ton of Ukraine. We went a long time today. This is 45. I mean, we went a long time just on the election stuff. So we've got a little bit of Ukraine news too. Let me give you that now. So the Ukraine news. Day 936 of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation. Zelensky announced that he's the Ukraine's final victory plan for Ukraine Zelensky announced that the victory plan that Ukraine has for fighting Russia and Ukraine is finally ready. The U.S. and some European allies were demanding this. Thank you, Jocelyn, for subscribing, or thank you, Blue, for sending the subscriptions. Please send the other gifts, guys. Keep the gifts coming. Remember, I do this full time. Nobody pays me. You are the ones who pay me. I literally pay the bills with your guys' gifts, so please keep them coming. The West, Biden, probably the French and the Germans, were demanding that Zelensky come up with a plan for victory, or they weren't going to keep funding him. Thank you, Marcia. So Zelensky came up with a plan. It's not gone public yet, but he said it's complete. A little more news here. Thank you, NJ Patman. Thank you. Who's that? PC Knoll. French Mirage 2000 fighter jets that are destined for Ukraine will be modified to enable them to hit ground targets, the French said today. We knew earlier in the year the French said they were sending Mirage fighter jets. These are fourth-generation fighter jets, which basically means they're in the same category as F-16s, so they're very good fighter jets. Oops, sorry, a little more here. Thank you, Marsha, PC Noel, NJ, we said Chazak, Jocelyn, Lamb Chop. Thank you, guys. They're Mirage 2000-5s. Anybody who wanted to know specifically. What else here? Macron also said previously that France will be training Ukrainian pilots on flying the Mirages. This is a great freaking story. This one I actually copied a lot of news footage on. It's just amazing. The Ukrainians blew up last night. They didn't just blow up. They wiped off the face of the planet a Russian arms depot that only a few years ago the Russians bragged publicly that it was nuclear proof, that it was built to survive a nuclear war. The Ukrainians sent some drones in and they blew the thing literally off the map. The explosion was so large, it registered on the Richter scale as an earthquake. As Tammy said, it was literally a mushroom cloud. The satellites from space were able to see the cloud. It looked like a nuclear explosion. They used drones to blow up a Russian arms depot, an arms storage that the Russians recently bragged it could survive a nuclear blast. It couldn't survive a little Ukrainian drone. I mean, I just thought that cracked me up so badly. Let me read a little bit of that. It's from the Telegraph. Ukraine has blown up a Russian ammunition dump, triggering an explosion so powerful it was picked up by earthquake monitors. A huge explosion and mushroom cloud was seen coming from a warehouse complex in the city of Toropets. about 300 miles from the Ukrainian border. It is believed that the depot is used to house North Korean missiles and some of Russia's most advanced weaponry, including guided bombs, which are used a lot to attack Ukraine, artillery, and S-400 air defense systems. S-400s are the systems that are like half a billion to $1 billion with a B. That's a billion euros. I mean, I am dying to know. They could have done billions of dollars of damage here, guys. The plumes of smoke rising from the fires were so large that they could be seen from space. The explosions also triggered seismic activity measuring 2.8 points on the Richter scale. The Kyiv Independent had a bit more. Back in 2018, the Russian Defense Ministry bragged that this facility would be prepared to withstand even a nuclear explosion. According to Ukrainian intelligence, the arsenal stored ballistic missiles, including Iskanders, anti-aircraft missiles, artillery ammunition, and guided bombs. The attack, quote, literally wiped off the face of the earth a large warehouse of the main missile and artillery department of the Russian Defense Ministry, Ukrainian intelligence said. I mean, that's freaking awesome. It's hilarious. It is, again, I mean, and it's embarrassing. First of all, again, I always say this, the Ukrainians, there's a little bit of Israel in Ukraine. They've got a little sly, I forget, is the word malin in French, like sly, like a little crafty, I want to say evil, but evil isn't the word I'm looking for. Evil meaning like he, right? And frankly, Israel's good at that. I mean, Israel does bad things too, but Israel's good at dicking around with you, right? As we saw when they blew up all these pagers. And by the way, Callum was telling me, like, I thought they blew up like 8 pagers. They blew up like 5,000 pagers, the Israelis did, that the terrorists were holding, that Hezbollah terrorists. 5,000 pagers that the Hezbollah terrorists had, the Israelis were able to blow up. I mean, I'm sorry. That's just like, that is amazing. The Ukrainians have got an evil streak like the Israeli, evil meaning, you know, evil as in conniving. Who uses pagers, Jocelyn? The funny story there. The reason Hezbollah, which is the terrorist group in southern Lebanon, was using pagers was because they wanted to get around the Israelis eavesdropping on their cell phones. So because they were worried about the Israelis, they used pagers. So the Israelis managed to put some kind of explosive, a small explosive, in each of, and again, Callum said 5,000. Guys, have we confirmed it was 5? That sounded crazy to me. I believe Callum, but he said like 5,000 pagers that they put the small bombs in. And then they like short-circuited okay, it's confirmed, short-circuited the pagers and maybe caused like it heated or whatever, and it was enough to set off the explosion. I mean, it killed 9 and injured like 2,800. And by the way, I mean, the injuries, your pager is right in your front pocket. If you're a man, your pager is either in your bag right here or it's in your front pocket right by the goods. I mean, even if it doesn't kill you, you're in serious damage if a pager explosion goes off right at your crotch. I mean, right? Thank you, Simone. I mean, absolutely crazy. Okay, so a small bomb exploded. Ah, that's interesting. Poppy's saying a small bomb exploded the lithium battery. Oh, okay. So it wasn't the small bomb was the main impact. The small bomb blew up and lithium batteries, we know, like when they go bad, they can be a big problem, right? Oh, that's interesting. Wow. I mean, but again, maybe diabolical is a good word, WC. Yeah. I mean, just amazing. DJ Coffin says, I saw a TikTok video. The problem is I've seen some videos, but they're pretty, I mean, the videos are of men standing there as their crotch blows up. I doubt TikTok would allow that. Twitter allows it. So I saw the videos on Twitter. Again, couldn't show you guys, but I doubt TikTok would be very, if they're terrorists, I'm actually ecstatic, Tammy, if they're terrorists. She said, how do you feel about it? I have no problem killing terrorists. 0. I don't want a lot of civilian damage. So I still would want to know how many civilians were hurt. Sometimes civilians are going to get hurt, but I don't want a disproportionate number of civilians hurt. Seriously hurt, okay? But overall, if most of the damage was against terrorists, I literally salute in admiration of doing something like that. Absolutely amazing. Again, depends on the damage. Depends on the damage. But, you know, again, you're dealing with a terrorist group that's got, I'm trying to remember, does Hezbollah, I'm trying to remember actually. We know Hamas had like 30,000 men. I don't even know what Hezbollah's got, you know? But guys, it's not clean. Trying to kill terrorists who live in society is not a clean thing to do. This is where I tell people, and I don't want to get into the whole Israel thing, but we like to use sort of not just Western values. We like to sort of look at Israel as though living in Israel is like living in New York City, right? Why would you go and kill someone? Why would you go and try to kill a terrorist and kill a lot of civilians too, right? Life is great in New York. Life is great in Chicago. There's no reason to have to do that. Well, in Israel, you've got people blowing up bombs all the time and blowing up small children and everything else. They're under attack all the time. It's a whole different, I mean, again, I'm not going to justify it, but I am going to say we've got to be careful using Western values of that's horrible, which means we would never do that. We wouldn't do it because we literally aren't facing annihilation like Israel's facing. We're not facing the terrorism Israel's been facing for 75 years. If you were facing it, and you were facing, by the way, one terrorist group of 30,000 people across the border in Gaza, another terror, and Hezbollah, how many fighters, let me see here. I'm going to see how many fighters Hezbollah has, because you're talking literally 30,000 terrorists in Gaza. How many fighters does, oh my God, okay. Can I tell you how scary, okay, this is kind of scary. Guys, I wish I could show you this. I'm typing in Google, how many fighters does the Google search finishes Hezbollah have? It literally finished it for me. I'm a little creeped out right now, I have to say. That's a little weird, Google. Estimates vary, but as of October 2021, which is a little old, it actually depends. No, the leader, one of the leaders of Hezbollah claims they've got 100,000 fighters. Independent estimates put it at 20 to 50,000. Okay, so let's forget the 100,000. They've got 20 to 50,000 terrorists over across the border in Lebanon. They've got 30,000 terrorists across the border in Gaza, constantly attacking them, trying to kill them. Thank you, Marsha. Yeah, your Google did it too, Courtney. I just am surprised that that came up. That's why, and again, I don't want to get into a whole Israel discussion, but that's why I tell people I think the conflict in the Middle East is very complicated. It is very gray. It is not clear that one side is evil and one side is good. The Palestinians got screwed by the United, not by Israel, there wasn't Israel, by the Jews. Okay, the Jews got screwed. 2/3 of them in Europe were murdered in World War II. 2/3 of the Jews in Europe were murdered. The number internationally, I think, is 2/5, I think. So 40% of the Jews worldwide were murdered by Hitler. 40%, guys, imagine your ethnicity. 40%, like me, Greek, 40% of all Greeks were murdered worldwide. And that's pretty significant, okay? The United Nations felt it's time to act. We've got to give Israel a homeland. They kind of screwed the Palestinians. The Palestinians did not have a state, by the way. They weren't really a people. They were people, but they weren't a people back in the early 1900s, 1940s. But land was taken and given to Israel. Land was also taken and given to the Palestinians, right? They were going to set up two states, and the Arabs and the Palestinians didn't like it. They attacked Israel. They tried to kill the Israelis, and the Israelis won. Again, right? Already complicated. The Jews are murdered, so of course the UN felt they had to act, right? At the same time, the Palestinians lost some land. They weren't happy. But at the same time, the Palestinians were finally given a homeland for their own, and they thought it wasn't enough. And they attacked the Israelis. They declared war against the Jews. I say the Jews, the Israelis. And what happened? The Israelis fought back and they won. Well, then they complained that Israel took some land. Well, you attacked Israel and Israel fought. Okay, even better. The United Nations was justified in giving the Israelis land, the Jews. At that point, Jews, there was no Israelis. The Palestinians were justified in being upset that the UN took some land. The Palestinians then attacked the Israelis. I understand why. The Israelis then said, screw you, you're trying to kill us. We're going to kill you instead, and we're going to take your land to be safe. I understand why, right? If somebody attacked you first, you'd say, I'm taking your land. Then later, the Arabs got together and attacked Israel again, which I kind of understand. And the Israels won again. And then they did it again, and Israel won again. And Israel kept taking more land. And the problem is, people talk about Israel occupying land. Well, they occupied land because the Arabs kept attacking them and losing. Thank you, Blue Skies. But having said that, I kind of get to some degree why the Arabs were attacking, because they were pissed off the United Nations gave Israel land in the first place. But I also understand why the United Nations gave, not Israel, there was no Israel, why it gave Jews land, because 40% of the world's Jews were murdered in World War II. At this point, after 3,000 years of anti-Semitism, it was clear the world had to act to protect these people. That is why I said, by the way, I just got you to about 1973, 50 years ago, okay? Thank you, Lamb Chop. Thank you, Marie. Over the last 75 years, the Palestinians have been blowing up airplanes, boats, cars, dance halls. They've been murdering women and babies left and right for 75 years, okay? Thank you, Marcia. The Israelis have been retaliating, bombing the Palestinians, and Palestinian women and babies are getting killed. That is why today, I cry bullshit when somebody goes, look at how many Palestinians are dying, because look at how many Israelis die. And I also cry bullshit if somebody says only the Israelis are suffering, because the Palestinians have been suffering. The problem is, thank you, Christina, thank you, Randy, thank you, Christina, is both sides have been suffering. When you go back to the beginning, it's complicated. When you get to the present, it's complicated. Both sides have been killing each other. Both sides have a right to say, look, but you attacked first. You attacked first, and then you attacked first, and then you attacked first, and then you attacked first, right? You killed my baby. I killed your baby. You killed mine first. I mean, it doesn't end. And anybody who tries to tell you, thank you, Kanji, thank you, Running, anybody who tries to tell you the Middle East conflict is simple, that one side is to blame, is lying to you. And that's what bothers me about when people talk about, and that's frankly why I don't like to talk about the conflict, because some people will agree with me when I say this. Very often I just get people going when I make this point. And it's just, annoying at some point. Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Chubby. But yeah, it is a mess. But it's really not the original. But I don't think the original sin was taking Palestine and giving it away. It wasn't Palestine. There were people living there. It wasn't a country, and the United Nations needed to do something. There were no first of all, there were no countries there. I mean, most of the countries there, they're all, well, first of all, every country on the planet's fake as far as that goes, right? Because like, so Israel was fake. Every country's fake. It's not like, the Republicans might tell you that God had literally prepared the United States of America in the Bible. He really didn't. The US, France, Germany, Argentina, Egypt, they're all fake. Somebody drew them on a map. We had a lot of wars. And finally, that's how the borders were settled, right? Thank you, who is that? Thank you, Swan, for subscribing, right? But, it's just, a lot of Europeans came to the Middle East. They did. And you know what? I've got news for you. Those Middle Eastern country or people at that point weren't exactly much better than the Europeans. Let's put it that way, okay? Look at the governments in the Middle East. They're not exactly pillars of greatness. Okay, the Europeans screwed things up, but you were also dealing with a region that's pretty screwed up, as far as I'm concerned, and still is. Europeans didn't help, but at the same time, region's pretty screwed up, and the governments are pretty screwed up. I mean, this was, this gets you into a much larger discussion on development issues, development meaning underdeveloped countries, and who's to blame. And, history matters in every discussion, but also volition matters. Free will matters too. Thank you, Marie. And I sometimes want, even in Greece, where my family's from, I feel like I wish the Greeks would do more to sort of stand up against corruption and things like that. Greece could be a much more developed country than it is, right? Thank you, Justin. Italy's the same way. If Italy could get its act together, it should be such a successful country, and it's not. Italians need to figure out how to do that. The Middle East, Latin America, get a lot of corruption, and I think a lot of people who don't really want to advance. Africa, I mean, it's a lot of screwed up countries, unfortunately. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Grumpy. Thank you, Grouch. But again, thank you, Dustin. But again, history also did screw them over, but it's not like they were like soaring to victory until history intervened and screwed them, Anyway, but as I said, I don't like getting into these issues because although you guys are being pretty good today, usually people get all how are you not saying Jews are horrible and this kind of crap, and I'm like, okay, get out of here, you know. Vichasmeni. What is Vichasmeni? I'm forgetting though. What is that? Vichasmeni. Oh, thank you for the gift there, Annie. Lovely. Very active, but what does that mean, Yaroslav? I'm not sure what that means. Vichasmeni. It says active in English, but that word doesn't quite translate, I think, correctly. Thank you, Carol. It doesn't actually explain well enough what the word means. I, of course, understood the rest of the sentence, but not the adjective. He was talking about the Greeks. The pager thing is pretty awesome. D-A-R-Z-A. No, but the Middle East thing is just a disaster. I mean, and again, you also look at it. And it's not just the Middle East. I think Russia's the same way. Russia has to decide if it wants to be a first world country. Russia has to decide if it wants to embrace the civilized world and become a member of the civilized world, right? Economically, the first world, culturally, everything they've got. And Russia so far doesn't want to be that member. I mean, we can't make Russia become an upstanding citizen if they don't want to be, right? There's something screwed up in the Russian government and the people who pick that government. It's a dictatorship, but guys, it's been 300 years. It's been 300 years of those dictatorships. I kind of think maybe this is who the Russians are, right? They've got to decide if they want a revolution. They've got to decide if they want democracy. And again, they've got to decide if they want to be part of the civilized world. Do they want to join Europe and grow, right? Do they want to join? Frankly, we were willing to be friends with them in the 1990s. And again, America's that way. We were thinking, we got rid of our weapons and everything because we thought no longer is Russia a problem. In their mind, they thought, ooh, America, Europe, let's build up again and have wars. I mean, and again, poor Russia, it's not a third world country. Would you call it a second world country? Maybe, if that's a phrase, right? I'd call it a second world country, right? The indoor plumbing, we were talking about this, the indoor plumbing, 22% of Russian households don't have toilets. Guess how many American households have toilet? 99.9%. Thank you, Johnny. It's a very poor country in many ways. And they waste it on wars and weapons because, and again, it's kind of an underdeveloped mindset, frankly, to say, oh, we will look at all of our weapons rather than trying to help your people, rather than trying to help your economy, rather than trying to grow your culture, right? Integrate with your neighbors. My God, they have the European economy on their freaking doorstep. Is it? Well, I hadn't Googled it, Darren. Actually, I never remembered the concept of second world. I just sort of made it up because I wasn't quite, maybe I was remembering it from school and was forgetting it. But they've got Europe on their doorstep. They could have, look what the Greeks did. Look what the Portuguese did, right? And actually some of the other Eastern European countries, they're lucky the Europeans welcomed them into the European Union. Greece has gotten a lot of subsidies. My God, the bridges that were built in Greece with European Union money. My God, one of them was it Rio Antirion? I think it's called, like Rio Antirion. It was the most gorgeous thing. It's that same person who designs the bridges where they're white with like these fine lines almost. It's got to be the same designer, architect. Stunning, absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. And Greece made a very smart decision to tie itself economically to Europe. It got a lot of help. And frankly, guess what? Those European countries were more developed economically than Greece, and they're pulling Greece up with them. It's freaking... Now, is that true? Poland is already wealthier than Portugal and Greece. I did not know that, Yulal. Is that true? I did not know that. That's very interesting. Well, that's very interesting. Wow. Europe has helped Greece a lot. The Germans complained about it a lot. But, again, Europe has decided the Brits kind of didn't, or some of the Brits, but has decided it's in their interest to sort of grow collectively. Russia, I think, could have potentially, I don't know about joining the EU, but they could have gotten much closer to the European Union. And they made a huge mistake culturally and economically. Because, again, Russia is... Italy may be on par Economically with Russia, maybe. I don't really know. I don't know enough anymore. Culturally, I would say no. Italy's leaps and bounds above in terms of their cultural influence. What's it called? Soft diplomacy. We use that phrase, meaning like cultural impact around the world. Italy, I think, has a much larger cultural impact around the world in terms of food and fashion than the Russians do. Russian food, zero. I mean, Russian culture, there's no impact of Russian culture on the world at all, really, right? Thank you, Christina. They've got some books that were written 150 years ago or 110. I don't know when the hell they were written, right? But the tourism aspect as well, right? Actually, that's a good point. The anonymous theater, Heather says tourism too, right? People go to Italy because we know it. Oh my God, to go to Rome, to see the Vatican, right? To see the Colosseum. I mean, and there are probably none of us out there who would say, yeah, I don't care about, if somebody wanted to let me see Rome, I'd be like, no. If somebody said you could see Moscow, first of all, you wouldn't want to go now because you'd think your life was in danger, right? But also, I've been to Moscow anyway, but I would not be as excited to see Moscow as to see the Colosseum and the Vatican. And right, I mean, Italy has this cultural power that far outranks what the Russians have. Far. And again, it's called like soft diplomacy is the phrase in sort of foreign policy terms. Soft diplomacy is stuff like your culture, like Americans, super strong soft diplomacy. Our culture has huge impacts worldwide, but it's soft. It's not bombs. It's not wars. It's music. It can be food. It can be businesses. It can be technology, right? Yeah, Venice. My God, St. Petersburg is great. I've been there. It ain't Venice. That's the thing. I mean, Russia, and also St. Petersburg is old. I mean, Russia hasn't done anything in the last 100 years. They doped up a lot of athletes in the Olympics and got medals, but it just makes me sad because I think Russia had a great history. And they had such an opportunity when the Soviet Union dissolved in 1991. They had such I don't know, maybe Marion, if you're still here, if you've got a sort of a feeling on this, but I always feel like it was an incredible missed opportunity. I don't know whether Russia experts like Marion would say there was never an opportunity, like knowing who the Russians are, just because the Soviet Union died, there was never a chance of them finding Jesus and saying, let's become slowly more democratic. Let's associate ourselves more with Europe and the European economies, right? I don't know. Marion, if you are still here, you are. It was a totally wasted moment, but was there any real possibility of the Russians doing that? Or is it just not in the Russian psyche and the mindset to ever even possibly latch themselves onto Europe and stop being belligerent assholes? Now, I say Marion because Marion is literally a legitimate Russia expert. Longtime friend of mine. We've been to Russia together. But Marion would negotiate contracts in Russian. She literally pulled out her Russian constitution once, and we were in Russia together, meeting with a local government official and a governor, not a governor, but one of the top aides to a governor of Kamchatka, which is the region in risk, any of you know. Petropavlovsk is the town. And I remember Marion pulling out like her copy of the Russian constitution she carried with her. And maybe it was the legislation, but talking to the guy and reading some of it, going, oh yeah, but I mean, guys, I would have a hard time arguing the US Constitution and legislation with you because I haven't studied it in a long time. Marion was doing it in Russian with the Russian Constitution. I mean, amazing. So that's why I say not to schmooze you too much, Marion, but she's a true expert on this, super fluent in Russian, where she was literally negotiating and writing contracts in Russian. I would be terrified. But yeah, Marion says big missed opportunity. Putin stopped it. Okay, Putin stopped it. So actually, there could have been a chance of Russia catching up more and more, or I should not catching up, but getting closer and closer to Europe. And frankly, keeping détente going with America, right? Like just not treat us as Randy and Fred. I'll do a summary at the end. I will. Okay. But they just screwed it up. It really upsets me. But again, I blame the Russian people to a point too, because the Russian people don't want it. I mean, at some point, yeah, you've had dictatorships, but you kind of have always had dictatorships. At least you've always had authoritarian governments or autocratic governments, heavy, strong men governments. Maybe that's just who you are and it's who you want. right? We can't make you want democracy if you don't want it yourself. We can't make you want freedom. We can't make you join the civilized world and stop being megalomaniac, genocidal murderers if that's who your government is. You know, I mean, it's really sad though, because Putin thinks he's making Russia great again, and he's literally, sending Russia into history as a second-class country forever, because it is. Yeah, he's made the Russian military stronger. He made Russia scary again. That's it. That's it. Economically, there's nothing there. Culturally, like I said, there's really nothing there culturally. Again, we compared it to Italy. My God, right? He made Russia scary. He didn't make Russia great again. He made Russia. Actually, that's a great point. That'd be a great article head or title. He didn't make Russia great again. He made Russia scary again. And was that really enough? Right? I mean, simple people want to be feared, right? I think like more complicated people want to be loved. They want to be rich, right? They want to be happy. But being feared, if your main goal is to be feared and nothing else, I think you're kind of fucked up. Like that's not something we look at somebody and go, yeah, what he wants out of life is for people to fear him. You would typically say you're a little screwed up if that's your main goal in life. Money, I'm fine with money. Right? Your main goal is to get rich. Okay. Happiness would be better, but rich is okay. But your main goal is to be feared. Okay. People skip. Yes. People do not respect you. People laugh at you. Right? People make fun of your culture. People make fun of your economy. They also make fun of your military as well. But they fear you because you're kind of an asshole with nuclear weapons. That's what you want that's what you want the history books to say? Kind of a second-rate country, a second-class country that was kind of poor, but they were assholes, so they got noticed. Okay. Congratulations, And I know it is, but it makes me, anyway, we don't have to keep talking, but it makes me very sad. It makes me very sad because I think the Russians just missed such an opportunity to join the West because, and it's true, Americans don't want to be their enemies. Europeans really don't want to be the Russians' enemies. I mean, we hate them now, just like we did during the Soviet years because they're horrible. But at the same time, Americans Europeans maybe too. We're pretty good about again, the Russians stopped. They were the freaking Soviet Union. We hated the Soviet Union. And they literally said, we're no longer the Soviet Union. We said, okay, let's be friends. And that wasn't enough for them. Thank you, Danik. And thank you, Russell, both. Appreciate that. Anyway. Ukraine should not have given away its nukes. No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Or honestly, Ukraine should have said, we'll give away our nukes if we join NATO. That Ukraine should have said that. I'll bet you at that point, even though Ukraine might not have been ready to join NATO, I think the U.S. would have been in an interesting position if the Ukrainians said, we're not giving away our nuclear weapons. Thank you, Ocean. We're not giving away our nuclear weapons unless you make us members of NATO, because then we won't need them. That would have been very interesting. Even the French and the Germans might have been like, oh, fuck. But no, they trusted us and they were wrong to trust us. Yes, the Ukrainians. Absolutely. Anyway, all right, guys, let me do a quick summary and we can call it quits. We've been doing this for an hour 15. Since I promised Randy, Fred, and Hazel, I would do a quick summary. I haven't done summaries in a while. Interest rates were cut, or at least the Federal Reserve rate was cut 0.5 percentage points today, which is a large amount that should lead to lower interest rates on mortgages and bills and other things. You guys have loans you guys have. The Washington Post said that after the debate last week where Kamala Harris beat Trump, Kamala Harris has not improved in the national polls, but she is starting to improve in the state-by-state polls, most importantly, Pennsylvania and Nevada. Threats continue in Springfield, Ohio, where Donald Trump and J.D. Vance falsely claimed that Black people, Haitian immigrants, are stealing cats and dogs from their neighbors to eat them because, according to J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, that's what Black people do. They eat cats and dogs, and they steal them from their neighbors. It's a lie. The Associated Press, election issues that people are searching for online. The top issues are crime, Social Security, and healthcare. The New York Times had a funny headline that J.D. Vance was complaining about Democrats, calling Trump fascist, and Trump uses the phrase often about Democrats. Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who was a top Trump official at a Trump event today, attacked Kamala Harris for not having ever given birth to children. Talking about the Ukraine news, Ukraine's victory plan is ready. The U.S. has been demanding one along with several of the European countries, and Ukraine says its plan is ready. French Mirage fighter jets that are prepared to be sent to Ukraine soon. I think by the talk was by the end of the year, so hopefully in the next few months, they are going to be outfitted or enabled to hit ground targets as well. I'm not a big expert on Mirage fighter jets, but it seems that they Mustard showed up now. Good Mustard showed up now. You would have been pissed. We were having a lot of fun at the beginning of the show, Mustard, not talking about politics or Ukraine. And we were saying you'd be a little pissed off, but it was fun. It was fun. Anyway, the Mirage fighter jets are being outfitted to hit ground targets as well. The Kyiv Independent had a wonderful story about, thank you, Mustard, had a wonderful story about the Ukrainians utterly destroyed a Russian arms depot, a Russian military storage site that looks like it had these glide bombs that are these bombs being used to destroy Ukraine, missiles, artillery. It might have even had S-400 systems, which are these anti-aircraft systems, thank you, Russell, that are so important to the Russians. They only have a certain number. The Ukrainians have been blowing them up. The systems cost anywhere from $500 million to $1 billion. That's billion with a B, which is pretty much the same in euros, €1 billion. Huge. And the best part was, the arms storage facility that the Ukrainians blew up using drones, the Russians bragged a few years ago that it was impenetrable to nuclear weapons. Thank you, User 336. Impenetrable to nuclear weapons, and the Ukrainians flew a drone into it and blew up the entire place. Oh, and it blew up so big that it registered on the Richter scale as an earthquake, and the mushroom cloud was so large that satellites could see it from space. This is a wonderful freaking story. It's, like I said, it's absolutely a wonderful story. And let me see. You know what? And that's it, actually. That's it. That's it for the news today. So yes, the summary was fun because we had that Ukrainian story, which made it so much fun. All right, guys. Mustard, you're a little late. We're closing up shop. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. It's Wednesday, September 16th. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for the gifts. Thank you, mods. We did have a good number of trolls today, but that's always fun. I'm never even going to try. You're kidding me, John S. Like I'm going to try to say that. Leon, Fair, Pwillig, Gwyn, Gilgary, Schwinn, Rind, Rob, William Tisilla, Gogoch. But again, I don't really speak Gaelic or Welsh or whatever that is, so I also don't even know how to pronounce the letters. So I'm sure maybe I got Gogoch correct, but that's about it, because it's just too many letters that I'm not even familiar with how to pronounce. How's the war going? It's a tie. Oh, it's Welsh. Okay, it's a Welsh, so it is Welsh. It's a tie. I've been saying that for a while. Russia and Ukraine are both stuck. It's a tie. And unfortunately, it's our fault. We wanted it to be a tie. So that's what you do. All right, guys, I'm going to sign off. Thank you for joining us. I'll be back tomorrow. Have I seen Lord of the Rings? Yes. The newest one, I've seen the first. Actually, the newest one, I have to rewatch the first season because I'm old enough where TV shows used to go and on a break in the summer for 3 months and then come back. I can never remember any damn TV show. Are you younger people able to do this? I can never remember the damn TV show because it comes on a year and a half later. I've always got to watch the entire season again. In the old days, there was a 3-month break. The last show was May, and they would start again in September. And it was easy because you literally would watch, like, maybe you watched the last episode, maybe, but you remembered it wasn't, and the cliffhangers weren't as big either, definitely. Here, every show, and by the way, again, if I were a TV executive, I think there's a problem with it because I think when you wait a year and a half, I stopped watching The Expanse. There was too long of a break between the shows, and I stopped watching because it started up again, and I went, I don't even remember what happened. And I didn't watch. Years later, I think you people told me to watch it again. The Expanse is wonderful. I watched it again and it was great. But that's because I was able to watch it all the way through. But anyway, so yes, the new Lord of the Rings, I watched the first season. I loved it. It then went on too long of a break. They've started showing it again, the newest season. But I've been avoiding watching it because I know I've got to rewatch the first season. So I've actually been catching up on Charmed again. I went back to watch Charmed. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna have to start the first season again. I've just been holding off. Been holding off. So, oh, and I have to say, I just because kind of funny, but somebody yesterday mentioned when I got up to walk the dog, and they said, "Oh, you've lost a lot of weight. I can tell when you got up." I weighed myself today and had no idea how much weight I lost. I've lost like 6 pounds. If my mom's scale is correct, and I think it is, I've lost like 6 pounds since I came to Chicago, which isn't a bad thing because I needed to lose it. I just need to make sure I don't lose any more because this is the weight I think I had in my 20s, my young 20s, which is great. But I was like, okay, oh no, trust me, this was the weight I wanted to lose. It just coming to Chicago is what did it. But I don't want to lose any more. When I was working at the UN, I lost even more weight, but that's because that place was horrible and was driving me crazy. This is not driving me crazy. This is a lot of stress, but it's also nice to be home and see my family. But it's funny. But it probably is stress weight loss. Yeah, I just don't want it to go any less because like I look at pictures of myself at the UN, guys. It won't matter to you what sizes, but I was down to like 147 at the UN, 46. That was bad. I haven't been that since college, and or even high school, where I was like 5'10" and 140. I should not be that weight. Whereas 153 is actually the best I've been in 20, 30 years. Like that's actually a really good weight. But yeah, the problem is it's hard to cook here. Like I don't have my own refrigerator. I don't have my own freezer. We go and we get food, but it's not as easy. My nephew drives me to get the food. But in DC, I live across the street from the grocery store. So quite literally, I go 2 or 3 times a week. I always look for the specials. I go 2 or 3 times a week and I buy stuff when there's on sale because I live across the street, But it's tough because like here I don't. So anyway, and I probably have more dessert in DC because I love dessert. I did make some chocolate. I've got some chocolate chip cookie dough left in the basement. Now that I know I'm extra skinny, I'll have some of my chocolate chip cookie dough. But no, 147 was bad. Yeah. 153, like I said, is my very healthy weight. There's no way I can keep 153. Again, these are American weights. I should be 155. 155 is my very healthy adult weight. More than that is my less than healthy, but for an American, 160 is you're an American, so you're still healthy. But for the rest of the world, you got a little weight if you're 160 and my size. I should not be 160. As an American, that's great. When I'm in France, I'm obese when I'm 160. You know what I mean? But it's funny. But whereas in America, people would be like, oh my God, you're so skinny. It's very funny. It's very funny. You lost 20 pounds without trying, Blue Sky? Well, that happens to me when I go to France. When I would go to France, I'd go for 4 weeks and I would lose 5 or 6 pounds. I just living in France for 4 to 5 weeks, I'd lose 5 or 6 pounds. And I ate like a pig and I didn't drink a lot of water. I'm like 5'9", 5'10", like 5'9" and a half is my official height. That's what I'm saying. So like 160 is a healthy American weight, but I really should be 155. And if I'm being super healthy, 150, 153 is great, but not 153 if it's just losing weight and being too skinny. You know what I mean? I think France, it was more walking. I really do think it's the food because I was working most of the time in France. I was working. So I wasn't going out a lot during the day. And at night, again, maybe I'd go to the grocery store across the street, but most evenings I wasn't working. Yeah, it's not AI, Gothic. Most evenings I wasn't working, but I was staying home. So in France, I wasn't walking more. I think it was the food. I am convinced it was the food. I'm not exercising at all and I need to, but I think it's the food. And whatever, no, I'm not like I'm eating good here. I'm eating too much pizza here. But in France, guys, I ate like a pig. I would buy a lot of prepared food. I bought desserts every night. I would have dessert in France, in Paris, because the desserts at the stores, even the dessert in the grocery store, forget the bakeries, in the grocery store, the prepared desserts. Oh my God. They had volcano cake, we call it, moelleux in French, volcano cake, right? The cake that's moist inside with goo. They sell those in stores in France, in the grocery store. I mean, chocolate flan, they sell in the grocery store, and the quality is French bakery lava cake. There you go, Ash, lava cake. It is French bakery quality. It's not like here where you buy it in the store and you go, yeah, if I'm going to buy a chocolate dessert in the store, I know it's probably going to be like, Oh my God, in France, every night I ate this stuff. I was a pig in France. I lost 6 pounds by being overly stressed in Chicago and not being close enough to a grocery store. So I'm probably not eating enough. I don't know what I may not be eating enough. Who knows? Who knows? I am gonna make my cookies tonight just to give me a little more a little more calorie. 160 is okay. 160 actually at 5'10. I'm 5'9 and a half. 160 is okay, but that's a little bit of waste. Honestly, it is. It is. I think American man, any man, American, because we're a different size. I think if you're 5'9, 5'10, you should strive for 155. Again, unless you work out and you're 160 because you're this. But if you're just me, 160 is a bit heavy. But that's what I'm saying. I mean, I'm not like somebody paranoid about weight. I think 155 is my perfect weight. I think less than that is too skinny. So like, I'm not one of those people who's like freaky about their body dysmorphia or whatever they call it, right? But 155 has always been my goal. So that's why I was a little like, okay, this is a little light. My body mass index is always high, which I don't understand. It's always been high, which I always find weird, you know? I mean, anyway, thanks, Bjorn. Thank you, Diana. Yeah, I'm not trying to fish for compliments. It was just kind of funny because I literally went on you guys had said the other day I looked skinny and I went on the scale and I went, oh, wow. Wow, that was kind of crazy. I actually saw an article today saying the BMI index was outdated. You're making perch. Okay, see, you're being healthy. But no, in DC, I eat healthier in general because I will bounce back. I don't want to bounce back, so to speak. I don't want to go up to 160 again, you know? 175, oh my God. No, 175, 5'10", you better be muscle man if you're 175. 175 is okay. I don't want to say this if that's your weight, Alumas, so I don't want to offend you. But 175, I would be like obese at 175. That's horrible. That's 20 pounds more. Oh my God. Like for me, that would be huge belly and all sorts of stuff. Yeah, that's not healthy. No. Yeah, no, that would be from my size and build. That's like huge belly, and I think my dad was that, but dad had a belly. You know, that's not good. Yeah. Thank you, Dina, for the gift. 175 at 6 foot is oh, that's funny. At 6 foot, 175 is a little much. See, I would think at 6 foot, 175 would be a good height. You look sick at less than 187 at 5'9". Okay, I mean, again, it depends, you know, how it looks like. Because also, when I got down to like 150, I didn't know, like you can't see it on yourself, but I looked at pictures and went, okay, he's looking a little skinny. You know, like that's not totally healthy, you know? But it is true. Different people carry it differently. But also, you know, I don't work out and I should, because if it's muscle, that's obviously much nicer than just regular body. But, you know, we can only do so much. 6 foot 195 and he was skin and bones. That's what I mean. I think of 6 footers as being more like 190. 6 foot 170, I would think of as being a beanpole, you know, possibly a very attractive beanpole, but a beanpole, you know. Anyway, all right, guys, we're going an hour and a half. I'm going to go and make my cookies since I'm trying to put on weight, or at least hold my weight, with a little Tillamook. I guess Mom had the ice cream she had chocolate ice cream in the freezer for my nephews when they were visiting, my sister's sons, and they liked Mom. I said, why does Mom have chocolate ice cream in the freezer? Mom never has had chocolate ice cream. Like she liked vanilla with nuts and caramel kind of stuff, right? She never had chocolate. Chocolate's what I wanted. And I'm like, chocolate, and also it's Tillamook. Mom would never buy Tillamook ice cream. She bought it for the kids. So I'm like, yes. So I've got good ice cream. I've got chocolate chip cookies. I'm going to pig out tonight. I already had dinner before the show. I'm going to pig out. So all is well. All right, guys, have a good night. I'm not going to go to bed, but I'm going to go watch Charmed. But exactly, buy everything for the grandkids. I will see you guys tomorrow. 6 o'clock Eastern time is my show. Monday to Friday, we talk about the U.S. election. We talk about Ukraine. And then we talk about fun stuff like we just did, because I think it's fun. What the hell? I like hanging out and talking. You guys know that. You just had soup your son made from scratch. Oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, I find soup. We'll let it go with this. I find soup kind of difficult. whenever I try to make soup, it shouldn't be hard, but maybe I put too much of stuff or whatever that it's never like, I think I probably try to put too much. Like I don't want it to be too brothy, you know? You did miss the show, Bad Omen. I'm sorry. We've been literally talking about food and losing weight and chocolate ice cream, and now we're talking soup. So, anyway, I don't know. I'm not a soup expert, basically. Think of Diana. What do you do? You know, I cook well, but soup is, you know, colonoscopy prep dinner. All right, guys, let me go. I'll talk to you later. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for joining us. All right, YouTube, bye-bye. All right, and you guys have a good